In this unit, we're going to talk about motivation. Now, everybody knows what motivation is, but the million dollar question is, how do you feel it? How do you achieve it? I would put motivation in the same category as procrastination. A lot of students will mistakenly say, well, that it's a trait. Some people are just inherently more motivated, or some people are just inherently less of a procrastinator. The truth is that both of these, they're not traits, they're choices. Okay. And what motivates you to succeed in academics? It could be very different. What motivated me as a young man at 18 going to college would be very different than if asked the question, what motivated me in grad school when I was 36 with three kids and a wife. Very different set of motivators. So depending on who you are and where you are in life, different motivators kick in. But the bottom line of this is that motivation is an act or process of stimulating to action. Okay, it's a choice. It is not something that you're going to wait to happen. And again, in an earlier video, I talked about the value of having a visual image, a reminder of what motivates you. Some of my students on their vision boards will have pictures of their kids or their wife or their family. For me in college, I showed you again this picture of the F-14, a positive motivator, and the ring on the steel drum, a negative motivator, a reminder of what I didn't want to go do. And it really, truly worked and helped to keep me working hard when often I didn't feel like doing it. And so let's examine just really two types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic is the easy motivation. It's things that you enjoy doing. It doesn't take a lot of prompting to want to go play video games or go play sports if you like sports, or to read recreationally if you're a reader, or to play musical instruments if you're a musician. Those are things that you just want to do. So very easy. Extrinsic motivation, however, is a little bit different animal. Okay, so extrinsic is coming from the outside. Okay, so for me, it was the idea of being a pilot or the idea of not disappointing my parents. There's a number of things that motivated me to be a good student, most of which wasn't some intrinsic desire to go do math or to go do physics or to go do chemistry or to go do English. Um, and so your life is going to be a little bit of both. There are things that you are going to be motivated to want to go do. Those are easy. There's things that you know that you should be motivated to go do that you don't want to do. And you got to draw on that extrinsic motivation. Why are you in school? Keep your career objective in mind to help keep you motivated. Okay, so we're going to talk about the motivation cycle. I'm going to start this off with a true story. So back when COVID first kicked in, I had a neighbor who was in his 60s, really, really overweight, really out of shape, diabetic. So he had all of the comorbidities that people were being warned against for bad outcomes from COVID. And so he decided that he needed to change his life. He needed to lose weight. He needed to get in shape. So first off, it was a choice, right? He valued his health, just like you should value your education. So what did he do? He joined the gym and started to go. Academically, what does that mean? That means you start to study, right? You open the textbook and you read. You find a quiet place and you study. So he starts to go to the gym. He hated it. He told me he hated every minute when he first started going to the gym because he was so out of shape that everything he did was very painful. But it was a good decision and he kept doing it. And then eventually he started to lose weight. He started to feel better. What did he have? He had validation, right? Hey, this actually is working. And so you start to see the results of your good decisions. And then what? He started, when I saw him a couple months later, I just couldn't believe it was the same person. So I, like many, would say, hey, Johnny, you really look great. And so you could tell that he was confident, that he was feeling good. And so what did that do? That increased his motivation because he had positive results. And years later, it's 3 or 4 years later, he's a gym rat. It's just part of who he is. And so, although this is not him, this is the magnitude difference in before and after. And now he doesn't even think about going to the gym. It's just part of what he does. And so, what you need to do as a student is to become the student version of a gym rat. And how did that happen? Same process. You decide that you value your education, that you have this vision of what it is that you want to do. So, what do? You start to study and prepare, but you do it smartly, right? You use these learning strategies, you have that mindset, you exercise good time management, you create the quiet environment, and what happens? You start to feel that, hey, wait a minute, this is working. I'm understanding the math. I'm not just dreading or just trying to get through homework problems. I'm actually understanding it. And well, how does that validation take place? You start to get good grades. And the minute your grades start to improve, what happens? You have confidence. You get that positive self-talk. You're making good decisions. And then you truly believe that you can do this. You believe that you can succeed, and then it increases your motivation to study. Okay. It's just you become the studying version of a gym rat. It's just part of who you become. To be successful, certainly in a 4-year engineering program, like a lot of you want to do, you have to become, this has to become second nature. It's just what you do to be a successful student. Okay. And then the end result is someday you hold up that piece of paper and you will be successful. So the key thing is get the motivation cycle started, because the reverse of this is if you don't do things right and you don't find success, your motivation will decrease, and then the likelihood of you not being successful increases quite a bit. Here's an email I got from a student some years ago, and you can read it, but he says, I would really appreciate if you could tell me if I can still pass this course. I know I need to be my own motivator, my emphasis on motivator, but I am finding it hard to do so. Not an excuse, but it's hard to stay motivated. Okay, now this student was one exam into his very first semester in college. So he did very poorly on his first math exam. Okay, so I had him up to my office and I gave him my best motivational speech about being a good student and all the decisions you have to make. You got to show up, you got to take notes, sit in the front, put your phone away, come to office hours if you need to, go to tutoring. And I had him fired up. He walked out of there and I go, man, this guy is going to turn his life around. Well, he felt emotion at that point, but he didn't choose to follow it up. And so what happened? Nothing much changed from an observation level. I would see him half the time in class. He was not doing his homework. And so the second exam, he didn't do very well on. Not surprising, because he didn't change any of his behaviors. And he dropped the class. I'd never seen him again. So two exams in, by October of his freshman first year, I think he dropped out of school. Why? Because he just couldn't find the motivation. Well, it's not that you find it, you choose to find it. Okay. So don't be looking for some emotional outburst that just comes out of nowhere. You will create motivation by making a choice to study and to be successful. Okay, and there are some real obstacles, right? You may be overcommitted, might be a lot of hours working, plus with family. And that makes it tough to want to do schoolwork. Too many students are focused on grades rather than learning. You'll never be happy if you just focus on grades. But if you are learning, if you truly feel like you are learning, there's much greater satisfaction. In high school, pretty much if you attended, you passed. I'm sorry, but this is a meritocracy in college. You have to earn your grades. And so many students are shocked when they realize that they could actually not pass a class, even though they maybe showed up. Poor time management is obviously a big one. If you don't allocate the time, doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. You're not going to be successful. And then poor learning strategies. Okay, we've been talking about learning strategies. We talked about the paradigm shift, right? And so my student that I just talked about, he had been using his high school paradigm, and in college, he had that recognition after the first exam that what I am doing isn't working. But I gave it my best shot, but he didn't change his paradigm. He didn't change the way he approached. And then he hit a critical point in the class where he failed the second exam. He then dropped class, and I think he dropped out of college. Hey, this is not what you want to do. So let's sum this up real quick. It's all tied together. You've got to allot enough time to succeed, time management. You've got to create the environment to succeed. You've got to get rid of the distractions. You got to get into that zone, right? Into the that we talked about in a class or two ago. You have to employ these effective learning techniques. If what you are doing is not working, you need to change your approach to school and then find your mojo. Now, whether this is first or whether this is last, one way or the other, if you are successful, your mojo will definitely come. You will be getting more motivated because nothing makes you more excited than success. Okay? I will talk to you in the next unit.